everybody. Welcome to Vikings Report Rewind. As always, I'm your humble host, Ted Glover. And as always with me, I have my partner in crime on Vikings Report with Drew and Ted, one Mr. Drew Bunning, and the founder, lead blogger, numero uno honcho, commander-in-chief, president of these Daily Norsemen, the one, the only Christopher Gates. Folks, Vikings dropped to 1-4, losing to the Chiefs 27-20. Chris's team finds new ways to lose, it seems, every week. This week it was blasting your timeouts like your Mike Martz on the last days of the greatest show on turf, along with some questionable non-calls. I don't know. Talk. Somebody talk. I can't right now.
Throw the damn football. What the hell was that last play, dude? Throw the frickin' football in the general vicinity of the end zone and see what that. Don't take a sack there. That's stupid. But the Vikings did what they've done every week. They now have 7 turnovers in the first quarter of games this year so far, out of the 12 turnovers that they've committed overall. They get themselves into a hole early, and they try to dig themselves out of it, and they are not able to do so. They played stretches of this game with no Hawkinson, no Jefferson, and they like they have every week. They had their opportunities, and they didn't manage to take advantage of any of them. But like we say every week, you are what your record says you are, and this is a 1-4 football team.
Drew, it looks like you have a headache. You doing okay, buddy?
Fuck's sake, man. When you start getting to be every week's the same thing,
yeah,
it's either you're coaching it or you're allowing it to happen. It's coach. There's another handful of plays they screwed up. They screwed up an opportunity to beat the world champs. They couldn't get off the field defensively on third down. The play calling, Kevin O'Connell's the worst play caller in the NFL. His play calling is ass. It's terrible. Every incomplete first down, we got to run it for 2 yards. They might as well start out every drive 2nd and 8. But let me tell you, this is when the game swung for me. Coming out of halftime, 13-13, I was pretty jazzed. I was feeling the momentum. I made a post about it. Vikings are in good shape. They've done everything right the first half, controlled time of possession, controlled Pacheco, and they basically did everything they needed to do to keep Mahomes off the field. They start the second half, kickoff, Mahomes, first down from the 25, he gets sacked by Davenport. And I'm going, this is great. 2nd and 18, Mahomes tries the wide receiver screen to try to get back some of the penalty yardage to make it a more manageable third down. Caleb Evans makes a fantastic tackle. Yep. Fantastic. Right at the line of scrimmage. 3rd and 18. Mahomes goes back, chucks it up, and then turtles. When you chuck and turtle, you're throwing it away. It's either incomplete or intercepted. He didn't care either way. He threw it away, and Bynum made it the worst play on that ball you could. Just horrible. Yeah. Didn't square himself. He jumped too early, and a tight end caught it, Ted, 40 yards. That's a tight end. It wasn't a wide receiver.
Should have been a pick.
You can't let those plays happen. Right when that happened, I looked at Toots and I said, I don't think we're going to win this game. Because they had them. If they stop them there, the momentum, they punt. The Vikings don't want momentum. They don't want it. They give it away. They don't want momentum. But and then KC drives for a touchdown, gets another touchdown or something that we happen to, and then we go 3 and out. They get a touchdown, we go 3 and out. Look at those third quarter stats. That's where they lost the game.
Not only that, the Chiefs not only opened the second half with a touchdown, the Vikings went 3 and out. The Chiefs came back and scored a touchdown on their second drive, and it was 27-13 again off that, and that was the touchdown pass I believe Travis Kelce caught, and that was pretty much a mortal blow for the Vikings. They weren't coming down. I don't think they were coming back from that, Chris.
Can't get off the field.
Drew mentioned the third quarter, and I want to pull up the stat that the Luke Braun put out on social media during the game. Since after the Addison touchdown that put the Vikings ahead 13-0, the Chiefs ran 35 plays and the Vikings ran 3.
So, whoa! Say that again, please.
Okay, so from the time Jordan Addison caught the touchdown pass to put the Vikings ahead 13-10.
Okay.
The Chiefs ran 35 offensive plays, and the Vikings ran 3. because Kansas City got the ball back after that. They drove down for the field goal. They got the ball back at the start of the second half and went down for the touchdown. And then the Vikings went 3 and out, and then the Chiefs went on another touchdown drive. So they ran 35 plays to the Vikings 3. And Drew said that's where they turned it around. And, Raymond Hoagland just mentions it. The Chiefs have a 1st and 10 on one of these series here. I think it was the touchdown or the drive that ended with the Kelsey touchdown. They had a 1st and 25. 1st and 25, and they convert 1st and 25. You can't allow that kind of crap to happen. You can't win football games if you're giving up 1st and 25. It doesn't happen.
No, that Madison dropping that. Coach Gothorpe talks about.
Yeah, Coach
that
Gothorpe.
Screen pass where Madison dropped that screen pass. He'd still be running.
Well, he could have moonwalked in on that one, but of course he drops it. The Vikings' mistake, Ted and Chris, mistakes they made are at the absolute worst times. They are. When they make a miscue, it's at the absolute worst times every game. And every game they keep making them.
Speaking of the absolute worst time, Vikings turn the ball over on the very first play from scrimmage.
Here we go.
I think, come on, man.
Let's go ahead and give the world champs an extra possession in our own territory, Ted.
Yeah.
So this is something someone else put out. The Vikings opening drive in their 5 games this year, against the Buccaneers, they punted it away. Fumble against Philadelphia. Fumble against the Chargers. 99-yard pick 6 against Carolina, and fumble it away today. That is not the way to start off a damn football game in any of those.
And it's happening every week, Chris Gage.
It is. It's literally been every week. I mean, the punt in week 1 on their first drive, that was the best outcome they've had on an opening drive this season. Everything else has been a freaking disaster.
Ted sent me a message during the game on one of the Vikings drive. He wrote, the incomplete pass, then they run a useless play up the middle for 1 yard. Then they waste a timeout. Then they go 3 and out. There you go. And I thought that's exactly right. That is so terrible. That is bad. That is bad. Unfortunate that Madison didn't catch the ball, but handful of plays. Kansas City made more. No first half scoring again for the Vikings. They only had 13, which puts them up to 47 on the season, Chris, for what, 10 quarters? 10 quarters, 47 points.
That's not good.
But I wasn't so bummed about it because Kansas City only had 13. So I was thinking, you're hanging with them. You're right there with them. And then the third quarter just all goes to shit, Ted.
Yeah. The Vikings were right in there. They had, even with the turnover on the very first play of the game, even with going down early at home in front of a crowd that looked like it was about 60-40 maybe Vikings, they still had an opportunity to win this game, and they didn't. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. It feels like this is something they are starting to do on a regular basis. Where they last year they found out a way to win just about every single week. Mm-hmm. This year they're figuring out a way to lose. They are doing the complete 180 from what they did last year.
Yeah, I mean, they had we know they had a pretty charmed existence last season, going 11-0 one-score games, and it's not sustainable. But this is about as big a 180 as you could have expected. I mean, they got the win last week at Carolina, but Carolina's awful, so you can't really gauge anything on that. But the Vikings shouldn't be an awful football team. This should not be a 1-4 football team, but they are. And
they are.
Yep.
Well, they cause their own problems, guys. They do. They do. They set themselves up. Why does it take 3 or 4 downs to get a first down every time we're moving the ball? And again, we only start moving the ball when we're down 2 scores, Ted. Notice that again? Look, I wish the Vikings had a stat for that. When they get down 2 scores, they come back with a touchdown every time.
You and I were talking about that during the game, and I tweeted that out. I asked the question, why does KOC wait until the Vikings are down 2 scores to start attacking?
Yeah.
And several people mentioned to me, well, hey, if you look at those plays, maybe he was calling deep plays and Kirk Cousins was just checking down. And it just seemed like there were a fair amount of checkdowns in the first half. I don't know. I would have to actually go back and watch the game, but I think it's a combination of not wanting to make a mistake and not being aggressive. Because look, you turn the ball over on the very first play of the game, and when that happens, Kirk Cousins traditionally tends to turtle up a little bit and go very conservative. And I think the Vikings as a whole are doing that this year, just because nobody can hold on to the damn ball, and they're causing all these early turnovers, and which I think makes them very conscious about not turning the ball over, which takes away their aggressiveness, and they get into this conservative run the ball on 2nd and 9 and then just throw it away and punt. I don't know. That's just my kind of working theory right now through 5 games.
I would like to see, because the stats I have don't have those numbers as part of their stats or whatever. I would like to see how many drops the Vikings had today, because I don't know how many TJ Hawkinson had by himself. You just made that dude like the highest paid tight end in the league, and he gets 2 hands on the ball, and it looks like he's setting a volleyball to somebody and just freaking falls to the. I don't get it. Catch the damn. If you get 2 hands on the football, catch the damn football.
Yeah.
I mean, it should not be. And Hawkinson was the biggest culprit today, but we saw. I mean, KJ Osborne had one that hit him right between the 1 and the 7, and he dropped it.
JJ dropped one.
Yeah,
right.
Jefferson dropped one, and I mean it.
Brandon Powell didn't. He had a good game.
I didn't even know he was there, except for punt returns most of the time. But guys get hurt, and next man up, and he did what he was asked to do, and yeah. But like you said, they might be calling those plays, and either dudes are dropping the football, or they're checking up, or they're checking down and whatnot. But yeah, I don't get why this team doesn't get aggressive until they're down by like 10 or 14 points.
They always play well when they're down like that, though. They always come back. We say it every week. Why not run that offense when it's 0-0? So I don't know, but you guys got to tell me about the play calling, because I am not happy. It's not creative enough. It's not aggressive enough. They don't attack. He's a soft coach, and he needs to get himself a coordinator, because he doesn't. I'm telling you. I've been telling you this, Ted, for a year. Come on. You got to step on people's throat in this league. You got to bash people in the face. You can't run it up the middle on 2nd and 10 every single time. It's just there's a lot of plays that you just – Chris, when you watch the game, how many times do you say, why would you run that? How many times do you say that during a Viking game?
It's a lot. I don't have an exact number, but it's a lot. Andy
Reid's up two touchdowns. He's passing it the first 2 downs of a drive. It's like, come on, man. I don't know. I don't want to blame it on him. I want to talk a minute about Kirk Cousins, because I've heard a lot of stuff after the game. People are asking me before I started on this recording about Kirk Cousins. Tyler Fortis, who we know over at First and Skull, said that was Cousins' best game of the year. I'm going to strongly disagree with that.
I don't even think it was close to Kirk's best game of the year.
I don't know how he comes up with that, but that's his deal, and I respect his opinion. But I think Kirk, even though a lot of guys got hands on the ball, Chris, a lot of passes were high today. A lot of them were elevated more than usual, in my opinion. And it's really difficult to watch him hold the ball. He holds the ball too long on a lot of plays. And I know the O-line's not perfect, but there's a lot of plays when I watch the replay, I count in my head, 1, 2, 3, 4, release. He's got to release it, and he doesn't. And it really angers me.
Mm-hmm.
But
so you talk about holding on to the ball. The last play of the game. Chris, you kicked the show off by saying just throw the ball.
Yeah.
I would be more willing to be forgiving of that for a rookie quarterback still learning the game than I would for a 10-plus year NFL veteran. I mean, that for a guy with Kirk's experience, that was inexcusable. And he had plenty of time. It's a Hail Mary. Like you're not waiting for a guy to get open.
Right.
You're just throwing the ball and hoping for a deflection. Thanks, Greg. And by some miracle, somebody catches it in the end zone, and then you can go for 2 and win the game. I don't know what he was thinking. He ran around. He had time to throw the ball. Yes, he got sacked, but I would say, going back to what you were talking about earlier, Drew, he very much had time to throw the ball.
He absolutely did. I mean, I don't know how many guys he avoided or whatever, but just if you see the guy coming, just fling that damn thing out there. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? It's going to be incomplete, whatever. You don't take a sack there. You got to give somebody a chance to actually do something, and he didn't there.
I don't know what the plan is for Kirk Cousins. I don't think he's the guy. I like him, and I've been supporting him ever since he made the transition to Minnesota, started getting a little better. He's a good quarterback, but I am dying for a quarterback that can sidestep a blitz and still make a play. We don't have that in our game.
No.
The Vikings don't have any of that, and I watch it on other games in the NFL. I watch it in college football. When the corner blitzes in from the side, Mahomes would have stepped to the left or whatever and still at least had a chance for a play. We have no playmaking ability from our quarterback outside. None. It has to be a clean pocket. It has to be a clean pocket to make a successful play.
Yep.
And if you look at Mahomes and some of these other guys, Herbert, all these guys, either they can make a play from the clean pocket. They all can. But they have the extra advantage of making a play outside the pocket. The Vikings don't have any of that. They don't have any of that.
All right. Real quick, I meant to say this when I spoke the last time, but folks, we got over 100 people in a room. First of all, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it. I should have mentioned this at the top of the show.
Thank you, guys.
Apologies on me for not doing that. But if you're new to the show, just make a comment. That makes you eligible to win a prize. We're going to spin a computerized Toonce's Wheel of Destiny at the end of the show. Ruby she's running the Vikings Report Drew and Ted account in the comments section. She's taking down names. She's making a list, checking it twice. Going to find out if your comment is nice.
Nice.
And even if it's not nice, if you're going to be critical of us or the Vikings, that's fine. You're still going to be entered to win. We're going to spin a wheel at the end, and you can check out our prize vault at VikingsReport.com to see what prize you may be eligible to win. So, with that said, again, thanks for joining us. Here's the thing I want to mention, and Luke Braun mentioned this early in the first quarter, and I've been looking for it. I've been kind of distracted. My bad on that. And I want to talk about this a lot because he says it doesn't matter how much cap space you have, what slot you drafted in, where you drafted in, how you did last year, how talented you think you are. Every single offseason action is made completely moot if you are undisciplined. Penalties and turnovers, and that has been the theme for the Minnesota Vikings this year. I think Luke Braun hit the nail on the head with that tweet.
That is great. That's great information. We should get him on the show. Give him a prize.
All righty. But I mean, I think it's a very good point. You know, we talk about in the coming years, next year, and especially in 2025, the Vikings are going to be in a very healthy spot cap wise. They're going to have good young players under contract. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah has made some pretty good trades. I think he had a pretty good draft class the second time around. But none of it matters if you fumble on the first play of the game, if you fumble in the red zone, if you lose the turnover battle every single week, if you make dumb penalties at the most inopportune times. And that's what this team is doing every week this year, every single week, without even the game they won, every single week.
No, and like you said, or like we mentioned earlier, they've turned the ball over 12 times this year. 7 of them have come in the first quarter, and that means you're putting yourself in a hole very early on. So
that's what she said.
That's what she said.
Yeah, well, she probably did, but God dang it. So the Chiefs win the coin toss and say they're going to defer to the second half. So you're like, okay. We get the football first. We're going to go down. We're going to do whatever. And, you piss it down your leg on the first play of the game. So
sure.
not only do you not have the advantage of getting the football first anymore, you're not going to get the football first to start the second half either. And, we saw what the Chiefs did with that. They got the field goal at the end of the second quarter and then the touchdown at the beginning of the third quarter to double up. And, when you do those kind of things, like we said, you just put yourself in a hole early on and you got to try to dig yourself out of it every week. And last week against a Carolina team that isn't very good, they managed to do it. But, when you're playing the reigning Super Bowl champions, that kind of thing doesn't work because, they're really good. So, yeah, you got to – I think I said, when this team isn't actively trying to sabotage itself, they're actually capable of some pretty good football. But they spend so much time, shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, there's you can only do so much after you shot yourself in the foot that many times.
Let me ask you guys this. You got a team that you always say good teams overcome all the mistakes and find a way to win, which Kansas City's done over the last 3 years. But you say that, is it's kind of a convoluted question, but do the Vikings have the personnel to still win when they make a bunch of mistakes? Or is it something else that's causing them not to overcome the mistakes and win? Because it seems like they have the people to do it. And the defense has been, for my opinion, good all year. The defense has played pretty well. So I don't know if they just are a team that doesn't have the personnel, Chris and Ted, to overcome boneheaded mistakes, or what is it?
I don't think they do. I mean, last year they didn't make these boneheaded mistakes. They had, I think, what was it, 7 fumbles all season? They already have more in 5 games than they did all of last year. Kirk threw, how many interceptions did he have? I mean, the Vikings were plus 8 or 9. They were one of the better teams in turnover margin last year. This year, add one more this year, they're last. So no, they didn't make stupid penalties. Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
Well, no, last year they were plus 8 or 9, but they were barely winning, even with that. So they were a team that if they make mistakes, they're going to lose, which is now. That's the team we have now. So basically, maybe it is the personnel. They have to play perfectly to get through, to be able to win when they make mistakes. But it just seems like, to me, guys, there's a rash of mistakes every week. It's not 1 or 2. It's like 8 every week.
Mm-hmm.
And they seem to come at the absolute worst possible time. You know, you had the fumble in the very first play. It put the Chiefs on the Viking side of the field, and they just go right down and score. They had the Harrison Smith defensive pass interference that could have gotten them off the field, and they don't make a play. Like last year, they made a play when somebody needed to make a play. I mean, absolutely, positively had to make a play. Somebody did, usually.
Sure.
That's not happening this year. It's just not. And then, somebody just mentioned this about Justin Jefferson being hurt. He tweaked his hamstring. That was what the word they put on TV. And I'm telling you, if it's a hamstring, this is one of those things that can last 2, 3, 4 weeks if they rush him back too soon. I saw it as an Ohio State fan. I saw it with Jackson Smith and Jigba all last year. He tweaked it early in the season. They tried to bring him back early twice, and he ended up missing the entire year. This is just another one of those things. The Vikings had very good injury luck last year, and now that's not working in their favor either.
At least then Jigba's made up for it with his 5 catches in Seattle. but I digress. I don't know. The Vikings are an interesting team to talk about. I just don't. Where do you stand with these guys, Chris? Who are they? Who am I?
Good, bad, on the field, off the field. There is no football team that gives you more value for your entertainment dollar than the Minnesota Vikings do. I mean, so someone mentioned it the other day because we hit the anniversary of it. We're damn near at the 20th anniversary of the Love Boat. I mean, that was, I think it was 18 years ago now. That seems like it was just not that long ago. But, the off the field thing has become less of an issue, thankfully. But, this team finds, like we said, that last year they found different ways to win. They had the freak Josh Allen fumble at the goal line to give them a touchdown in Buffalo, and the comeback against the Colts or whatever. And that gives you something to talk about. And now, like Ted just said, they're finding all these new and fun and creative ways to lose, and that also gives you something to talk about. So, this team just, they are the most interesting team in the league, quite frankly, even if they are 1-4, just for the way they go about doing things and getting there. Honestly, it's just weird.
Take the turnovers out of it. You guys tell me, what's the problem with the Vikings? Tell me.
I go back to this quote from Bill Parcells over and over again. You are what your record says you are. And if you are 1-4, you are not a good football team. They are undisciplined. They don't take care of the football. And look, at some point, I can excuse 1 or 2 fumbles as bad luck. Mm-hmm. But when you have consistently every single week a player fumbling a football and not recovering it, it's more than bad luck. I don't know if it's bad coaching. I don't know if it's a player not paying attention to where they are in the field, where the defenders are, if they're not holding the ball correctly. But at some point, if it's coaching, I don't know. But at some point, we have got to stop saying the Vikings just have bad luck, because good teams make their own luck. Bad teams make their own luck as well. And the Vikings, by not being able to hold on to the football, this is something that goes beyond luck. It is fundamentals. It is coaching. It is something more than luck. I don't know.
It's not just one guy doing the fumbling. Cousins is fumbling. Madison fumbles. Oliver fumbles. Justin Jefferson fumbles. We have 7 or 8 lost fumbles this year. I think Cousins and maybe Madison might be the only 2 guys that have multiple fumbles lost. But like you said, if it was one guy, like we knew when Adrian Peterson was here, he had the propensity to put the ball on the ground. Okay, fine, whatever. He was good enough where nobody cared most of the time. But this is multiple different players coughing it up all the time, and that speaks to something more than just fighting for extra yardage or whatever the case may be. It's a team wide thing. It's not just 1 or 2 people.
And the thing with AP, I mean, if we go back to those days, it wasn't something he did every single week. I mean, he had some fumbles, but the return on investment you got for everything in between those fumbles was worth it. Justin Jefferson, I think, has only fumbled 1 time. Came at a horribly bad time. Mm-hmm. But like you said, this is not just on one player. And the more I think about this, the more I think coaching is involved, because it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, Kevin O'Connell said, we're going to learn to figure out, we're going to learn to not turn the ball over. And if guys keep doing it, we're going to start benching players. I don't think he's benched anybody yet. Like if Josh Oliver, that's the first play of the game, he doesn't get back in the game till at least the 3rd quarter. And I play Johnny Munt, and I don't care. I don't care what the ramifications are, and go from there. I don't know. I just
exactly right.
I think Kevin O'Connell, I think he's a good coach. I think he is not being tough enough when he needs to be.
That's the quote of the show right there. That is the quote of the show right there.
Do I get a prize?
Go ahead. Get a prize. We're giving them out today, Ted. That is a great comment, because he's not tough enough. Bill Parcells said, next person who turns this ball over, you ain't going to want to see what happens to you.
Like, honest, no kidding. Whether it's the next person that turns the ball over, whether it's Kirk, Justin Jefferson, if he plays, he's hurt. I don't know what his status is. Chris, if they say anything on the social media, if you find that, please jump in with breaking news. If it's Hawkinson, if it's Madison, I bench them. I don't care if it's Kirk. I'll put in Nick Mullins. I'll put in Cam Akers. I'll put in Johnny Munt. I'll put in Brandon Powell, and let them sit for the rest of the half. I don't care. At this point, you have got to send a message.
Dude, Woody Hayes would sit you for 4 games.
Yeah.
And Schembechler. You fumble in the red zone, you're not playing for a month. I mean, you got to start breaking down in your guys. And like we said to lead in the show, Chris, it's happened every week. It's not just a fluke thing if it happens 1 week and then, every week there's these boneheaded things that cost us every game. And I'm not going to say we should be 5-0 or whatever our record should be. Why is it happening every week? The word isn't getting through. The word is not getting through. Either they don't care what he says, or I think his attitude, Ted, is a lot like his play calling. His play calling is, they ran a section there from like beginning of the 1st quarter to halfway through the 2nd quarter. Every play was within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Every I don't play. Every play.
And I think that goes back to them, just being affected by that early turnover. I think the Vikings just go into this conservative shell and are so focused on not turning the ball over again that they actually make their situation worse by getting super conservative. They're not converting first downs. Kansas City, I think, Chris, you may remember, Drew, you may remember, but the end of the 1st quarter, I think the time of possession was like 12 minutes to 3 minutes in terms.
No, it was 16:44 for the Vikings.
No,
and,
at the end of the first quarter.
Oh, I don't know, but it wasn't.
It was pretty lopsided for Kansas City.
It was. Yeah,
Right.
I can't remember the exact numbers at the end of the first quarter, but yeah.
And then the second quarter was ours more. I don't know. I don't know, Ted. I want to know why. Ted Glover, why don't they run wide? Every running play the Vikings have is up the gut. Every single one. They never run a sweep now and then. Do you ever see him run wide?
I don't. And I think Cam Akers would be a perfect guy for that. And
yeah.
And they didn't really play him all that much. Like, so Madison drops, for example, that screen pass where he would have walked in and scored.
Sure.
I bring him off the field and I play Cam Akers the rest of the game. You have got to start sending messages to the players. There is absolutely no excuse for this.
Ted is right.
Breakdown in simple, basic football 101 fundamentals. And you guys talk because I have broken out the Right Reverend Jones Cup for the first time this year. And I have got some purple Kool-Aid I'm going to drink. Anyways.
Here's the thing. I know we talk about coaches sending messages and whatever, that kind of thing. Because we look at, the old school coaches, like, we bring up Bill Parcells. We obviously talk about Bud Grant, Bill Walsh, guys like that. And I'm going to go into full on like old guy mode here, but that was at a time where the coaches actually made more money than the players did. And so, TJ Hawkinson makes, what is it now, like $16 million a year. You bench that guy, what the fuck's that guy going to do? He's going to go home and, he's going to count his fucking $16 million. What's that going to do? You're not sending messages to these dudes,
Well, there's a way to do it.
Like millennials or whatever the hell the case may be. You're not sending a message in today's NFL is, I think, a whole lot different than what it used to be. And now you've got a guy in Kevin O'Connell who, at least last year, I think was younger than some of the players in the NFL. I mean, who's that guy going to discipline? Who's he going to scream at and get taken seriously? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm completely on the wrong train of thought here, but I think that's a huge difference when we talk about sending messages to players and that sort of thing.
When you got the star players, you're not going to bench them. You're not benching Jefferson, Hawkinson. You're not Harrison. You're not benching those guys. But you could certainly bench a guy like Madison or Oliver. Oliver shouldn't have seen the field the whole game. And you know what? Oliver doesn't fumble the rest of the season. You can bench a guy like Madison. There's certain people you can bench that gets the message across. Everybody already knows on the team, the players, they know J.J. Hawkinson. They know the guys that are above the rest with the rules. They do. So I hear what you're saying, Chris, but I disagree. There are people you can bench to get your message across to everybody else that you're not going to play. Madison should have he should have been the last. Ted was right. The last ball he touched.
The one thing I will say about benching superstars in this day and age, I think you can. I think you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. Like, let's say Justin Jefferson had caught a pass on the first play of the game and he fumbled it. You're right, Drew. You're not going to bench Justin Jefferson for the rest of the game. That's just stupid. However, you can bench him for the next series or two, or maybe for the rest of the quarter, and sit him down and say, look, here's the deal. You are a leader. You need to lead by example.
Sure.
And if this starts happening and you start cutting players playing time, that gets them less likely to meet some of these incentives that are worth a lot of money in their contracts in this day and age. So I don't know. I think there are things you can do. But yeah, you're not going to bench Justin Jefferson for an entire game, but you can bench Josh Oliver for a half. You can bench Alexander Madison at that point in the game for the rest of the game and go with Cam Akers and Ty Chandler. I mean, I don't get it. And like when this happens now, the players seem to know that nothing's going to happen. So this feeling of complacency is still there. Nobody's looking over their shoulder at the next guy that's going to come in and potentially replace him if they make a mistake. And I think you need to have that sense of urgency now because, good God, you're 1-4. I mean, the season, for all intents and purposes, you're not going to the playoffs at this point. You look at what Detroit did today against Carolina and then compare that to what the Vikings did against Carolina last week. Barring a complete reversal of fortune. There's not there. I don't see a point right now in how Minnesota's going to catch Detroit. And you look at the rest of the NFC, they're not going to get a wild card spot. So you need to start deciding what you're going to do and see who wants to be here and who wants to be part of the rebuild and who wants to play and who wants to be a contributing member of this team. If not, get rid of them.
No, I think I've said a few times, regardless of what would have happened this season, I'm pretty sure this is the last year of the Kirk Cousins era in Minnesota. I mean, if it wasn't going to be the last year of the Kirk Cousins era, they would have done some sort of extension with him after this year. So I think between the moves they made this offseason and not extending Kirk Cousins, I think they were kind of positioning themselves for next year and beyond. This upcoming quarterback class is supposed to be is supposed to be really solid. I mean, I've read things that have said there could be as many as 8 quarterbacks to go in the first round this year, and the Vikings are. I'm pretty sure I've said it on the show before. When you're a new head coach and a new general manager, you want to have your guy in there. And yes. I think the way that Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah have set themselves up, that 2024 is going to be the year where they have their guy behind center and, see where they go from there. But I think this is it for Kirk in Minnesota.
Jay Johnson had a quote, and I'm asking the question because I haven't seen any of the press conference because we're here live, along with almost 200 other people. Thank you for joining us. If you would go ahead and make a comment, you'll be enrolled to win a prize. But Jay Johnson says, I am confident we have our offense where it needs to be for when Jefferson comes back from this. I'm assuming that is a comment Kevin O'Connell made in his post-game press conference. If somebody could confirm that with me. Bobby Trader says Chandler needs to be RB1. I say Cam Akers, but we can have that debate. More Addison, less Madison. Kirk to New England. T. Kubler, look, they're not going to trade Kirk this year. That's not going to happen. They're going to ride Kirk out this year, but I agree with you, Chris, that Kirk won't be back after this season. And he's played well, but he's also, look, he's 36. He's going to be 36. He wants a 3-year extension. The Vikings aren't going to get it. And yes, I think Adolfo-Mensah and oh, hey, Robin. Hey, Drew and Ted, this is Robin. Hi, Robin. How are you? Glad to join us.
Robin Bell always tells it like it is.
Yeah, he does. And look, I just don't think he'll be back. Chris, I agree with you. I think new guys want their guy and see if they can win or lose with their guy.
He's not terrible, but we need more. You need that extra playmaking ability, Chris. You got to have it. In this day and age, with all the passing and everything, you can't just rely on a pocket guy. You got to get out of the pocket and do something. I mean, you have to. But he's not a schlub by any means. But
no, not at all.
It's time to move on and get something else going. We got JJ and everything on it. This season's tough. It's been a tough season. The Vikings could be a lot better than they are, but Kevin O'Connell, he handles his players like he handles his play calling. I'm going to run it up the middle.
So far
he is a nice coach. He doesn't bench anybody. He's going to learn that in the long run. That's not the way to be. But they are not going to fire everybody after this season. They're going to continue to go on with another draft, another regime, and we're going to see what happens. But you can't let games come down to I don't know. You got to step on people's throat. Detroit is in the right direction. We're not in the right direction. So, like I said earlier, Ted, we know what Detroit is, but we all deny it.
And next week, the Vikings have the Bears, and Todd Taylor just commented, and we have the spirit of Butkus helping the Bears beat us next week at Soldier Field. Going to be a fun time. Weird things happen at Soldier Field, and that's going to be the Bears' first home game since the passing of an absolute icon and NFL legend in Dick Butkus, the leader of those famed monsters of the midway defense of the 60s for the Bears. Yeah.
We got to do contest start next week, too, with Defend the North.
Yeah, we've got the Defend the North contest, which the Vikings are doing about as well as – well, they're not. I can come up with clever.
You were looking for a Game of Thrones reference there, and
I was. I couldn't find one. Yeah,
I didn't get you guys' take on what you think 5 games in. What you think of the defense so far? You got Flores starting with a bunch of young players, new system. And I think they've kept us in every game, but I wanted to get your guys' thought on the defense overall. Like, grade them a little bit for me.
I think it's inconsistent. I think they're better. I think by almost every statistical measure they're better, which not difficult to do when you look at last year's defense.
Sure.
They're a lot more aggressive, which I really like. But like you said, Drew, they've got a ways to go. They need more dogs, I guess is the word the kids are saying these days. They need more game-changing players on the defensive line, and I think Daniil Hunter's very well could be gone after this year. I don't think Harrison Smith will be back after this year. So they're going to need to find a lot of good players pretty fast, be it free agency or the draft or wherever. Chris, you go.
No, absolutely. I think all things considered, given the number of new personnel, I mean, the Vikings let go of a lot of the guys who kind of provided, and I'm pretty sure someone mentioned this before, provided a lot of the leadership on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, Eric Kendricks was here forever. I mean, he clearly was not the sort of player he was earlier in his career, but he was still one of the leaders. Anthony Barr has been gone for a couple years. Patrick Peterson had a couple of decent seasons here. Now he's gone. And, you got all these young guys. I mean, you got Ivan Pace Jr., who's going to be a cornerstone of this team going forward, I think. The young guys like Mekhi Blackman, and all these younger players on the defensive side. I mean, all things considered, given the hand that Brian Flores has been dealt, I think he's done just about as well as you could expect him to do. I mean, you can only do so much with guys that don't have the experience, might not have the talent, whatever, but he's trying to put them in a position to be successful. And, like I said, it's about as good as you could probably expect him to do at this point. They might continue to get better as this season goes along, but for now, I think this is probably just about what we should have expected.
I give a lot more credit to what Flores has done with the defense than what KOC has done with the offense.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Drew, I want to get your take. Well, actually, I want to get both your takes on this, but Drew will go with you because Chris just mentioned it. He mentioned Mekhi Blackman, who was rookie, I think, 3rd-round pick this year, playing pretty good. All things considered, I'm not going to crucify a guy that's getting thrown to the wolves right out the bat. He gave up a big 3rd down play. I think somebody mentioned 3rd and 18. They confirmed. I think Blackman was in. Caleb Evans went in and out a couple times with injury, but I think it's also very telling, Drewster, that Mekhi Blackman was the Vikings' first choice and not last year's 2nd-round choice, Andrew Booth Jr.
Sure. That's how I feel about it. Mekhi Blackman's going to be a shutdown corner and the best corner on this team in a couple of years.
He's pretty good.
A lot of faith in him.
A lot of potential. I thought he made some very good – and when Caleb Evans was in, I thought he played fairly well too. I mean, you could see the foundation for this defense being set up, I think. I mean, they've got a ways to go, and they need some help on the defensive line. But Pace and Blackman and Evans, I don't know, man. I think Flores, and hopefully he'll stay around for a couple of years. He's got pieces to work with.
Sure, and I think Toots has said it best during the game. Caleb Evans is a really good player. He gets hurt a lot. Yeah. And that's unfortunate because he is a really good corner. He's a great tackling corner. He's a cover corner. He was a good pick. But I also say guys tend to get out of position when they're younger because you haven't broke them of their habits. Flores may want these guys in a certain position, but they get into their habits and they end up not being in positions because this is how they're used to playing in college or whatever. Yeah. So that's why it takes a couple years to get everybody set. I like the Vikings defense. I think they're in for a great future. And today they showed a lot of aggressiveness and they had some boneheaded plays, but they also had some good plays, I think Flores has done a hell of a job with this defense. The reason we've lost all this game, even because of the defense, guys, it's not. No. It's because when you got 2 possessions to win a game 2 weeks ago and you can't score, that's on the offense.
Here's something I want to talk about. And okay. I am not a guy that says the refs cost the Vikings the game. If you've watched our show long enough, you know that Drew and I never put a Vikings loss or a Vikings win solely on bad officiating. But Robin Bell, who checked in and said hi, brought up this comment, and I want to talk about it. He said, It's BS that KC didn't get a PI call or a helmet penalty. I think it was on that last drive or second to last drive.
I agree.
Yep.
At the very least, that was a 15-yard penalty. Total BS. By the way, hi Chris. I didn't see you initially. With a melon that has its own weather system, Robin, I don't know how you didn't see Chris, but that's okay. That we'll let that one go because we all have big melons. Anyways,
with all this black, I think I should be reading beat poetry, and somebody should be playing on a bongo drum somewhere on the Lower East Side or something.
This is Sprockets.
That was Ted, that was my intangible last Friday on the show, on the studio show. My intangible was you got to look out for the officiating when Mahomes is playing because he gets calls. Kansas City gets calls, and they got a couple. Robin Bell is right. There should have been something on that play. How do you get off scot-free?
I mean, it was pretty much a call that mirrored what Harrison Smith got called PI on earlier in the game. And then
it wasn't called for interference. It wasn't called there.
And it wasn't, but I'll tell you what, when the Chiefs player took the helmet off his head on the field, that's automatically an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. And technically the play was not over yet because they had thrown the flag and they were discussing it. So as a minimum, that should have been a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for removing your helmet on the field of play. And you saw in the replay, the ref said, hey, put your helmet back on. And they didn't call it. I mean, it is a clear-cut rule that was not called. And Tony Romo says, well, yeah, it's a gray area about that. No, it's not a gray area. You take your helmet off on the field, it's a penalty. I guess it's a gray area if you're a freaking Chiefs player, but it's not a gray area for anybody else in the NFL. But
Shut
whatever.
Up, Romo.
Stupid.
Romo. No, Robin Bell's right. That should have been, I mean, you avoid 2 penalties. That's a world champs call. They called it the Chiefs way right there and gave him nothing. Give him nothing on it.
Like Andrew Erickson just said in the comment there, if you go back and you watch the video of the Minneapolis Miracle play, and Stephon Diggs takes his helmet off in the end zone and chucks it like halfway across the field, wherever, there's an official standing there. They threw a freaking flag
yes,
at Stephon Diggs for the Minneapolis Miracle, like one of the 5 greatest plays in NFL history, and some dumbass referee throws a freaking penalty flag for Diggs taking off his helmet. I mean, I don't get. There's no gray area there.
It's frustrating to watch these games, guys, when you know we could win, and something happens, and we just because we're not a 1-4 team. We're not.
Yeah, we are. We are.
Well,
I know.
Are we?
I know what you're saying, and I'm going to disagree because 1-4 teams that are 1-4, like I said earlier, create their own luck, good or bad, and they can't hold on to the football. They've got a -9 turnover ratio now. They cannot make a stop. The defense, for all the good things Brian Flores is doing with this Vikings defense, and I think we all agree he's kind of working with a defense with one hand tied behind his back in terms of talent, other than maybe Marcus Davenport, Daniil Hunter, Harrison Smith. He's doing what he can with what he has to work with. But when it comes right down to it, they still can't get off the field on third down when they have to. Well, I think at one point the Chiefs were like 5 for 5 or 6 for 6 on third down conversions. They still had a really good third down conversion percentage if you're a Chiefs fan. Good teams don't do that. They are not. I'm sorry. They're not. They have good players individually. They have very good players that cannot put it together, and therefore I think you have a bad team.
Can I retract my comment? Because I think I was wrong.
No, you stand on it. You know
what? We are a bad team.
Chris, are we a good football team or a bad team?
No, everything you said changes my mind. I don't know.
We're not good. We're not good. I mean, if there comes a point where if the season ended today, you'd have a top 5 pick in the draft, you're not good.
Yeah, there you go.
Good teams don't pick in the top 5 because that's just, not the way this thing goes.
So I got a message like 5 minutes before the game started from David Stefano, our good friend. He runs First and Goal, and he produces like 150 shows.
At Lou Krieger on X or Twitter. Go follow him if you're not.
Yeah. David Stefano sent me a message saying, "Hey, Drew, as long as we don't turn the ball over, I think we'll be all right against this team." And then it happened like 5 minutes before Oliver fumbled, and then he wrote, "Well, scratch that."
No,
David explains it all. David explained it all. That we kill ourselves, man. We kill ourselves.
individually, they have very good players. Collectively, they're a bad team. I don't know what to tell you. Kirk's a good player. Madison's an above-average player. Jordan Jefferson's the best player in the NFL at his position. Harrison Smith is still a very good player. Daniil Hunter's a good player. Jordan Hicks is a good player. Jordan Addison's a good player. I think he's got a great future. T.J. Hawkins is a good player. The guys in the offensive line are good for the most part, but when it comes time to put it together, they're not. So they're not a good football team. I don't know.
No, I retract my earlier statement. That was
no, that's on tape, brother. You're going to live with it now.
Let me ask you guys real quick. What do we do without Kirk Cousins? What's the plan?
I think they let him go. I think they let him walk.
Well, I know. Who's the quarterback?
You're drafting someone in 2024 and throwing him out there and say, "Here, kid, here's your offense." You get to throw to Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, and you've got Christian Darrisaw protecting your blind side. You should be able to handle this.
Let me complete my question. And what does that do to JJ in his future?
I was going to bring that up because that's a very good question, because somebody mentioned it earlier and then we got sidetracked on something else, which was also very important, which we needed to talk about at the time. But somebody mentioned that there was a rumor that Justin Jefferson turned down a very lucrative contract extension, waiting to see what the Vikings quarterback situation turns out being next year. What does that do with Justin Jefferson? Does he stick around, Chris?
Justin Jefferson is at the level right now where if you are Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell, you actively make him part of the process of selecting your next quarterback. Whether it's, whether it's actually having him, like sitting down with him and talking about the different prospects, or watching the film or whatever, or if there's guys that he's particularly partial to, you do what you can to make that dude happy. And if that means making him an active part of finding the next quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings, then you bring him in and you do that, because he is the type of player that has reached a level where he needs to be a part of that process.
Yeah. Couple comments. GMAC, this is going to win a prize right here. GMAC says confidence is contagious. Lack of confidence is also contagious. Well done.
That's great.
GMAC,
great.
You're a past prize winner. You know the drill. Get a hold of Ruby at VikingsReport@gmail.com. Pick a prize. Well done.
The Mac attack.
Now there are people saying, look, Danley says, I think Kirk stays. Nick says he's an okay quarterback, but not much more than that. Jared P says Cousins is not the problem. We are not saying Kirk Cousins is the problem.
Right.
No,
I don't think that in any way, shape, or form. This is a collective effort to get to 1-4. It's not on one guy. If it was on one guy, I think that guy would have been removed and we would have gone from there to see if that would have solved the problem. But it's not on Kirk. It's the fact that Kirk is 36. He's going to want over $35-40 million a year next year. And he wants a fairly healthy extension in terms of years. And the Vikings are just not going to do that. And if you do sign Kirk Cousins to a big extension, the going rate for him would the absolute floor would be $35 million. And I don't think that would get him back. We're looking at 40. I mean, look, if Daniel friggin' Jones gets $40 million a year, thank you, Ed Donatel. I hope Ed Donatel is on Daniel Jones's Christmas list from now until the end of time. But be that as it may, if Daniel Jones is getting $40 million a year, Kirk Cousins is going to want at least 40, if not 45. And if you give Kirk Cousins that kind of money over the course of 2 or 3 years, all the things you have done to get healthy cap-wise to be able to sign Justin Jefferson, to be able to re-sign Christian Darrisaw, to kind of look down the road for guys like Jordan Addison and a Caleb Evans and Mekhi Blackman, all those guys, you're not going to be able to. So it's a simple matter of age and economics at this point, the way I see it.
Yep. Not only is Ed Donatel on Daniel Jones's Christmas list, I think he's his agent. Because he must have been getting a cut of whatever Daniel Jones got on that contract extension, because he got that dude paid. But
Kirk Cousins just walks in and said, if Daniel Jones is getting $40 million, what am I worth? I agree with Chris on the Justin Jefferson. Get him as part of the panel or whatever to look at the quarterback for the future, because that gets him involved in the team. And that when you're involved in the team and you re-sign, all that's good. I don't know if this is a fact, but I'm gonna go out and say that Kirk Cousins is frustrated with this offense. I don't think he's happy at all with Kevin O'Connell. About 3 weeks ago, I saw him blow up on the sidelines. Blow up. take his hat off, and he's screaming at whoever he was screaming at. I think it was O'Connell.
It was.
And today he got disgruntled after a couple of calls when he was walking off the field. I don't think he's happy with what's going on. I don't think he's happy, and I think that's going to lead to him not being here anymore. But he doesn't look comfortable, fully comfortable, and he doesn't look like he's having a good time like he was last year. He doesn't. There's something going on there. There's a dynamic going on there with Cousins. He doesn't like a part of this offense, and I'm not sure what it is.
That could be. Yeah, maybe it's their inability to hold on to the ball or what.
I want to go to something that Thadir said in the comments here. He says,
I was coming to that.
As I hate to ask, what do we think his trade value is right now? There's so many different things to that. I mean, first of all, and we say this on social media all the time, Kirk Cousins has a no trade clause. So the Vikings can work out any deal they want with anyone they want. And if Kirk Cousins says no, the answer is no. It's not going to happen. So first you got to find somebody who Kirk Cousins would be willing to waive his no trade clause for. And then because he's in the last year of his contract, I mean, whoever is going to trade for him, he's going to want an extension from them too. So you're going to have to figure out a team that not only does Kirk Cousins want to go to, but they're going to have enough cap space to do a contract extension for him. And you're not going to get a hell of a lot of return for a 36-year-old quarterback. I mean, you're just not. I mean, so, and not only that, if it's for somebody who thinks they're a contender this season, they would get Cousins, and then Cousins got to come in and learn a new offense and get everything going with a new group of wide receivers and learn all the terminology, whatever. So, I don't think the return for Kirk Cousins would be, worth even trying to trade him. And I don't think he's going to agree to any sort of a trade at this point anyway, because, if you're getting ready to go into free agency, why are you going to agree to switch teams in the middle of the contract year? That's not going to happen. So no, there is just about no chance that Kirk Cousins gets traded anywhere, and there's just about no value in trading Kirk Cousins at this point. You're not going to get the sort of return that you think you're going to get.
That's really well said.
Thank you.
He doesn't look. It's well said, Chris, but it doesn't look like he's comfortable or having a good time this year. It doesn't.
No.
It looks like he's just like that. To hell with it when he's angry, and I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but.
And then one other thing I want to mention before we wrap this up and go to the prize wheel. I've seen several people throughout the course of the show, whether you're joking or not, says crap for Caleb, tank for Williams. The Minnesota Vikings are not going to tank. No. The people that say tank and get the first round pick overall, there has been, I think, one quarterback picked in the first round in the last 50 years, whatever it is, in the 25 years, whatever. One quarterback picked first overall that has won a Super Bowl, and that's Eli Manning, and he was picked by the Chargers and then traded to the Giants. So tanking guarantees you nothing.
Right.
And you could, at 1-4, the Vikings are going to need to tank. They're not going to have a very good record. They're going to be in a position to pick probably a decent quarterback. Yeah, everybody is kind of on Caleb Williams right now, but a lot can happen between now and the draft. And if there is a guy that clearly seems to stand out among everybody else, I mean, besides Williams, you got your boy, Drew J.J. McCarthy. You got Drake May. There are several quarterbacks that this looks to be a very talent-rich class in quarterbacks coming up. The Vikings are probably going to be in position to pick a good quarterback. And if not, you can always make trades. I mean, trades happen all the time during the draft. So shut up about tanking because they're not going to tank.
No, tank thing is weak. I don't know.
There he is.
Get rid of the tank talk. No tank talk.
Spencer Stewart, Ryan Leaf, and DeMarcus Russell worked out pretty well.
Yeah, what about the guy that the Jets took second?
Zach Wilson.
Quarterback, Zach Wilson, Trubisky. I mean, shut up about Caleb Williams. You don't know what he's going to be like as a pro. You don't. No one knows. So
no,
I don't get into tank.
You can screw up the number 1 overall pick just as easily as you can screw up the 21st overall pick or any other pick in the first round. It doesn't just because you got the number 1 pick doesn't mean you got a guaranteed superstar coming in.
Chris, you bring knowledge
just let
to the show.
Just let the chips fall where they're going to fall.
Thank you.
Chris has a lot of knowledge.
It's really nice being on a show with guys that are rational and level-headed and don't yell and get out of control.
Yeah.
We
and
never
make dumb jokes, make that's what she said jokes all the time. It's good to have a panel of professionals on this show.
We are a very serious football program, Ted.
Speaking of boobs, I'm glad they didn't show Taylor Swift one time today.
She wasn't at the game.
No.
She wasn't even
Yeah.
there.
That's because she's a
Anyway.
cheater. She's not loyal.
No.
I hope next. Who we got next? Oh, the Bears. We got the
Bears,
next
yeah.
week.
At the ancient Indian burial ground known as Soldier Field. 'Cause God
One
knows
that even
what's gonna
Giorgio
happen there
Tsoukalos, one that Giorgio Tsoukalos even thinks aliens have visited. I don't know.
again.
So it'll be 5-2 at halftime.
Toons has
Something like
popped
that.
up on the screen. I think that's her way of saying we need to spin the wheel and get out of here. Toons says,
Hi.
hi.
Toons.
Hello.
Hi, Toons says.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Sure
Yeah.
can.
Yep, we hear you.
Alrighty, here we go. We got a lot of people again. The wheel is stacked.
Wow.
Damn, that's a whole
There
lot
we
of
go.
people.
I love the sound. Oh.
Spencer Stewart.
Spencer Stewart. That sounds like a first-time winner. That's a name I don't recall very much.
Spencer Stewart.
Spencer, congratulations. You are our post-game show prize winner. Give Ruby an email. Shout out at Vikings Report with Drew and Ted at gmail.com. She'll give you a link to the prize vault to pick your prize, and we'll get that mailed out to you. Congratulations, Spencer.
Spencer.
All right.
There you go. There's Chucky, Spencer.
Yeah.
He knows Chuck, my friend.
Oh, does he? Okay. All right. Good deal. All right. So Vikings fall to 1-4, lose 27-20 at home. The fall 0-3 at home on the year. They fall to the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh!
Drew, your last thoughts before you get out of here.
Oh! Boom! Why did you do that?
See, I told you, you don't get more intelligent conversation than that right there.
That pretty well sums it up. Yeah.
I think it all comes down to what Chris said. Win or lose, this is the most entertaining football team, college or pro, around.
Yeah.
They do it every week. They have managed to do it every week. I love doing this show. Thanks to everyone tuning in. We just passed 25,000 subscribers for Vikings Report, and I can't thank you enough. They're just gonna have to. You got to keep going back to the drawing board and see if you can get it right. We will be back with episode 109 this week and a preview of the Bears game, and we are starting a new contest this week. It's Defend the North. It's a divisional game with the Bears, so you can get a T-shirt, you can get other stuff, but always fun to talk football with you guys. And thank everybody for showing up tonight.
Chris?
Yeah, I mean, these are. I think Tunes just said herself. She's been able to fire a therapist and depend on this as her weekly therapy session. So that's always nice. We're saving the people money and we're entertaining the people. So I mean, it doesn't get a hell of a lot better than that. But you know, being able to do this with you guys, it makes 1 and 4 a little more palatable. I mean, it's still not fun, but you know, we get to come here and talk about what's going wrong and what could be done to fix it, if anything, and whatnot. But yeah, this is we're just going to keep doing it until YouTube or somebody tells us that we can't anymore, and just win, lose, whatever, we'll be here for it, and that's the most important thing.
Ted, we're going to keep doing it, no matter what.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Without protection. All right. As latter 21st century philosopher Kelly Campbell once famously said, it is what it is. As 20th century philosopher Bill Parcells said, you are what your record says you are. For Chris, for Drew, I'm Ted. We're 1 and 4. We will see you next Friday. Skol Vikings.
We'll find out.